Well, currently I serve Central Phoenix in the state legislature. I'm a state senator for District 15, and this is my 7th year in the legislature. I spent 6 years in the House, and in November the voters of my district sent me to the Senate. You know, the 2010 election had a huge impact in Arizona. Republicans have always controlled state government in Arizona. Literally for the last 40 years, Republicans have had a majority in the legislature. But now, for the first time in a long time, the Arizona Republican Party has a supermajority in the state legislature, which means that they have the power to override the governor's veto. That really gives them a lot of unfettered power, and I think that my job as a Democratic state senator will be to call attention to those excesses. When my colleagues engage in abuses of power or engage in activities that are outside the mainstream of Arizona, I think my job will be to make sure that the media and the public know that they're acting outside of our best interests. You know, this year, unfortunately, we've already seen a rush of these, just really crazy outside the mainstream pieces of legislation. Most famously, probably on Thursday of this last week, 2 members of the legislature introduced legislation that would deny birth certificates to children who are born in this country if one of their parents doesn't have citizenship as well. But the bill is so poorly crafted that it actually denies citizenship to children who are born to active military soldiers overseas. The governor has created a fake budget, and she knows that she's created a fake budget. Last year, when she passed a budget in 2010, she included anticipated revenue from the voters' propositions to repeal First Things First and Growing Smarter. Now, we all know in November of 2010, the voters soundly rejected those 2 measures, and that created a deeper deficit in her budget. She knew that those measures were going to fail, but she papered over the budget anyway. And that's exactly what she's doing here. She has created a paper budget that saves $541 million by cutting Medicaid or access to Arizona's working families. But she doesn't have the legal right to cut that health care, and she knows it. She's asked the federal government for a waiver to allow her to cut that funding, but I don't think she's going to get permission from the federal government. Moreover, what she isn't doing, and this is really important, she's not asking the voters for a waiver, and she has a constitutional duty to do so. Prop 204, which was passed by Arizona voters in 2000, constitutionally protected this health care for working Arizonans. Governor Brewer doesn't have the right to cut this health care without getting permission from the voters of Arizona. She has said very clearly that she does not plan to get the voters' permission, probably because she knows she wouldn't get their permission. So we intend to sue her if she does indeed try to take this health care away from Arizonans, and we will win. But more importantly, I believe the governor knows all of this, and that she's simply engaging in this exercise so that later, when she's not allowed to cut health care for Arizonans, she'll cut education instead and blame it on the federal government. And that's what I think is very concerning, that this is really just a trick to try and blame the Obama administration and the federal government for a problem that is our own homegrown problem. Now, in regards to a solution, Democrats absolutely have a solution to this, and we've been offering it to her for the last 2 years. Right now in Arizona, there exists over $10 billion in corporate tax loopholes, where corporations and the rich get special deals and don't have to pay their fair share. We propose just closing a very, very, very tiny minority of those loopholes. That would generate more than enough revenue to save kids' care and our education system. A couple quick examples include things like liposuction. Right now, when people in Arizona get elective liposuction because they don't like the way their body looks, they don't pay a tax on it. Even though I pay a tax every time I buy formula for my baby niece or buy a backpack for my nephew to go to school. So it's not fair that those individuals aren't paying sales tax when the rest of us are. Other examples include country club memberships and fancy spa treatments. Those things should be taxed just like everything else. We should close those loopholes and ask big corporations and the rich to pay their fair share. You know, Arizona has received a lot of national and international attention, and unfortunately, it's almost exclusively been negative attention. I think that's unfortunate because outside of the state legislature and some of the crazy things that they do, Arizonans are actually doing great work all across our state. And what I think is unfortunate is that we have a very small minority of people at the state legislature who are painting a picture of Arizona that really makes us, I think, look crazy and out of touch, but more importantly, it drives away one of our strongest economic engines, and that is tourism. My goal in the last few years has really been to help folks in Arizona and throughout the country understand that the kind of activity that's happening in Arizona under the control of the Republican Party is not only bad for Arizona, it's bad for our country.